speak of the devil. When we think of Satan, the devil, we see the king of darkness down in his little fiery pit of hell. Maybe he's totally just red with his horns, his his whatever you call those, you know, cow's feet. And he has a tail, or he's just like this menacing, terrible, and evil entity. No, that's definitely not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Fan, Satan, the Swedish devil, or so to speak, the devil in Swedish folklore. That was a very different kind of devil. Hi and welcome to another video here on my channel, Morbid History. I know I've been on an unplanned hiatus, but this is my new room and this is where I'm gonna be streaming on my Twitch and recording videos from now on. Either way, thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy the channel. It really helps with the algorithm. Let's get into some folklore. Hey, this video is sponsored. No, it's not. It's sponsored by myself. I am a depressed hermit with generalized anxiety, autism and ADD. I can't do a normal job. So I've started to make, besides my Patreon, jewelry, and I've posted a bunch of fun little earrings inspired by nature, and I call them Hermit Made. I'm gonna link the list to my little coffee shop down below if you wanna check those out. It's just something that I really love doing, and I think it would help me pay my bills. So thanks for taking your time to check that out. Let's continue. Like I'd ever get a sponsor. So why am I saying that the devil was a bit different? Well, of course, when Christianity came to Sweden in the 1800s, there had already been many years of paganism, and people believed in these forest creatures, and you know, I've talked about it in many videos. They were used as cautionary tales for the most part, and the devil, of course, when he arrived, he was pushed by the church to take over some of the roles that these different entities had before Christianity, of course. They even pushed it as far as to say that many creatures that I've talked about on my channel before, like the skogsrå, Näcken, troll, and other creatures that I will talk about in the future, that they were actually just the devil's henchmen, almost, and that they fell down from the sky with him when the devil fell, and depending on where they landed, like if the evil devil friend landed in the woods, they became a skogsrå. If they landed in the water, they became a sjörå or Näcken or something like that. The Christians, priests, and they had a lot of work to do to convert these Swedish peasants into believing in whatever they were pushing. And it took them many hundred years, of course. And in this chaotic, kind of forced entry of Satan into their normal lore, he became kind of a different entity in itself. Satan, instead of becoming like the counterpart of a god, became more of a creature as any other. He became sort of like a mischievous trickster fiend. And in many stories he actually had a bit of a humorous role, and he was seen as easily deceived. Many times the stories about him were basically him trying to steal something or trick someone virtuous into doing bad deeds and failing miserably. He wasn't the scary man that the Western world, at least, later made him into being. Still, just saying his name, Satan, Fan, was not a good thing. They thought that if you said his name, because people did believe in Christianity, that was a thing. They believed in that at the same time as they believed in the forest creatures and stuff. So they did think that if you spoke his name, that meant that you would somehow bring him to you, and it would mean bad luck. So of course he got a lot of different other names. Some of those were Hinnhåle, Hornpär, Skam is a very common one, and that just translates into shame. In many of the stories that I've read for this video, he is called Skam. And what did the Swedish folklore devil look like? Well, he actually made himself look like a very fancy man. In some stories he was walking around in a big fur coat that looked very luxurious, and he had a hat on, like a very fancy hat, and like a very rich gentleman. But of course, if you looked close, you could see that he had horns under his hat, he had a tail and the hooves. So he wasn't that good at disguising himself, but usually when he did, he tried to look respectable. An affable man. If the devil could be anything like that. But he would also often turn up if someone sold their soul to the devil and they died. He would come usually as a black dog to the funeral, or as a black horse at some point, standing outside the dying person's window, waiting to collect their souls. So he could, in those cases, be a black animal too. And the main gist of all that is that the devil became a trickster fiend who was used in the exact same way as all the other folklore creatures, as a scare tactic to stay in your lane. Of course, not to anger God or not to get bad luck. And also, as many of the folklore tales, like if you saved a sjörå, you could get luck in fishing. If you helped the skogsrå, you could get luck in wood thingamajigs, and Näcken could help you for a prize to get super good at playing the violin. The devil took over many of these things with his devil contracts that of course became a huge thing in these stories. One of the stories is actually exactly almost a copy of the one I told in my Näcken video. It goes that a man went to sign a contract with the devil so he would be able to play an instrument. Well, let's say a violin again. And just as that story went, the devil gave him the abilities but told him to not play one specific song. It was a forbidden song. And he sold his soul and he got the violin power and went out and played this violin to his little heart's content. But at some point people became bored with the songs he was playing, and he did, of course, play the forbidden song. And that wasn't the best of plans. Now, he couldn't stop playing. And the people dancing couldn't stop dancing. They were dancing until their feet like just gnawed off, and they were just jumping heads at the end of it because they couldn't stop. And then the deaf boy came in and saw what was happening and cut the strings of the violin, and at least the poor violin player was saved, but he killed the entire dance floor. Thanks, Satan. So moral of that story, listen to Satan if you're gonna do a little contract with the guy. Kind of serious business. And of course, these devil contracts would, as many folk tales do, explain why some people were better, richer, or just had a better life in general than others. They had signed away something, their soul, to the devil, and he had given them what they wanted. But, of course, now you're asking yourself, how do I make a contract with the devil? It's not a very easy task, I don't think. Maybe it is. If you want to try, let me know. But I'll tell you now. I'm gonna read it because I'm not ADHD. I can't remember. So first you put a psalm book under one foot and a Bible under the other. Supposedly you would like wrap them and tie them there with some string. And then you would walk 3 Thursdays in a row, 7 rounds around your local church backwards. Every time you walked past the main door, you had to blow into it. Like into the keyhole, of course, of the main door. On the 3rd night, you wrote your contract and what you wanted from the devil with your own blood on a piece of paper and stuck it into a crack in the church door. And yeah. Then you could just wait for your fortune to arrive and then die and live your life in the pits of hell. But you had fun during those few years. You would still be alive. Yes! But if you did not want to sign away your life to the devil, you did not want to have anything to do with the devil, what could you do to stop him from coming with his fancy attire into your life? Well, you shouldn't dance, you can't drink, you can't swear, you can't work on Sundays, you couldn't be mean to your employees, you were not supposed to be snobbish, you couldn't be a snob, arrogant, I guess, and of course not commit crimes or I mean, of course, you couldn't self-cancel yourself. Those were just some of the ways you could escape the devil's fancy claws. And we'll end this short little segment about the Swedish folklore devil with a short little story that's very typical of the kinds of tales that they told. So, there was this very poor peasant man who was not living the greatest life with his poor wife. They were struggling pretty damn hard. One day when he was sitting in his tiny cottage with his wife, a very well-dressed, fancy man with a big fur coat and everything waltzed in for some reason, and he said, "Why are you like having such a hard life? I will buy your wife for 100 kronor." I don't remember the exact amount, but something like that. "I will buy your wife for 100 kronor." And the peasant man said, "No, but I'll sell her for 1,000 kronor." And the devil said, "Yay!" and I'll come and pick her up again next Thursday. And he waltzed his fancy ass out of the door. And when he did, there was smoke coming into the entire cottage, and the wife was angry. She was just sold, and even angrier because she just realized that she had been sold to the devil. She told her husband, "Damn you, idiot, you just sold me to scum, to shame." But the peasant man was just like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. And next week, when Thursday arrived again, he took a Bible and hung it on her breast. He took a psalm book and hung it on her back, and then he placed another Bible in her hand and just said, "Stand there." And when the fancy ass devil walked in, he got so scared of all the Bibles and just ran away. Of course, the peasant man had already collected the money at this point, so he bought himself a huge farm, and they all lived happily ever after. So yeah, that was just a very, very typical story. They were almost always pretty humorous and like on the expense of Satan, that he was trying to be a trickster, but he was a bit too dumb to do the trick properly. So yeah, that was my rambly video about the devil in Swedish folklore. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, sometimes you just shouldn't trust fancily dressed men in fancy coats and hats. Please have a look under if their tails are showing, or yeah, hit his hat off and see if he has some horns under there. Either way, thank you so much for watching. These past few weeks have been very bad, but I'm getting into this again. I have 2 videos that I have already, I'm almost done with scripts. I will be doing one about the different kinds of ghosts in Swedish folklore, and I also have a very, very, very strange true crime case from the 1600s that's so weird, and it's probably gonna have to be either a very long episode or 2 episodes, because dang, there's a lot of people involved, and there's murder, or there's adultery, there's murder, there's people calling each other baby killers, and it's just a lot, but I'll get to it. Yeah. And thanks again. Please, please, please do like, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know what you thought about the video in the comments. I love reading them. It's one of my greatest pleasures in life. If you want more content, I do have my Patreon. If you wanna give me a tip and help me pay my poor damn bills, I have Ko-fi, and of course I'm selling jewelry there now, and I'm gonna link my merch as well. Yeah, thank you all for just being fantastic. And now to the part where I thank my beautiful patrons. You're gonna be like, no, here. Thank you, you're all amazing, and it's just thanks to people like you that I can keep on keeping on. And we all know how important it is to keep keeping on. You're all amazing. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week with another video. I'll also link my Twitch, because I sometimes stream there, if that's your cup of tea. So, mwah, and hugs, and I'll see you soon.